You guys, today, Caitlin Clark got fined $200. Kathy, what do you think you are accomplishing by that? What kind of message do you think you're accomplishing by doing? You're not even making an example out of her by fining her an exorbitant amount of money. You are literally making a joke out of yourself by fining her such a little.
Caitlin Clark just got fined $200 for 4 words. Refs couldn't stop us. 4 words, $200. And the timing? Right as Indiana flips the playoffs on their head. Tonight we're unpacking what that tiny fine really says about the W, how policing speech became policy, and why this underdog fever run is the best and most inconvenient story the league has had in years. Stay with me, because the receipts are wild.
So during the game, we saw here, the Fever players celebrating. I would assume based on the reaction that this was after the Lexi Hull steal and everything. And Caitlin Clark on Instagram commented this: refs couldn't stop us. Elite bench mob. It wasn't for the lack of trying. Glad they're having fun and celebrating like no other teams. Will she get fined for saying that? Yeah, she got fined.
Here's what happened. Clean and simple. After Indiana closed out Atlanta in Game 3, the team posted a celebratory clip. Clark dropped 2 comments. Elite bench mob. And refs couldn't stop us. That's it. No names, no slurs, no targeted callouts. A line millions of fans have yelled at their TVs. The league responded by issuing a $200 fine. $200. That's not deterrence. That's a parking ticket. It doesn't sting Clark's wallet. It signals the league's priorities. Quick reality check. This season hasn't just been about shot charts and matchups. It's been about a constant hum of officiating frustration, texts flying, reviews dragging, emotions boiling. Players bite their tongues in the presser, then exhale on social. Coaches tiptoe through answers like they're defusing a bomb. Fans keep asking for one thing: clarity. Instead, they keep getting penalties for saying the quiet part out loud.
Okay, and we know how this works because Sophie Cunningham has told us how this works. If you talk about the refereeing, if you talk about the officiating on the InstaFace, on the TikToks, on the Twitters, any of that social media, in the public, in the interview, if you mouth it in the shower, Kathy Engelbert will peek in and look around at you and point at you and be like, you're fined. Even though she won't clean up the officiating in her trash-ass league? Okay.
Let's zoom in on the irony. Clark isn't even on the floor. A mid-season groin injury cut her year to 13 games. Yet from the bench, she's still the gravitational center of the sport, filling arenas, spiking ratings, and somehow still drawing whistles from the league office. When the fine dropped, Clark laughed it off. Got fined $200 for this. LOL. She promised the bench mob would be even louder. Teammate Sophie Cunningham joked about starting a GoFundMe. Translation: the league tried to send a message, and the players sent one back. This isn't intimidation, it's a meme. And that's the problem. A policy intended to protect the product is now undermining it. Instead of dialing down controversy, it dials it up. It's the Streisand effect in real time. The comment would have faded. The fine made it headline material. Now let's talk optics. While this fine lands, another story is cresting. Indiana, decimated by injuries, playing with house money, walks into Las Vegas, a fortress, and lands a haymaker in Game 1. Kelsey Mitchell, ruthless, shot-making clinic. Indiana's bench, a live wire. The exact elite bench mob. Clark hyped, they showed up and set the tone.
It is real. The hate is real, Kathy. I see you hating on us from a mile away, Kathy Engelbert. We all see it. You out here trying to fine Caitlin Clark. You out here fining the one person who's actually bringing money into this league. What a joke. You're mad that the Indiana Fever are here right now. Y'all didn't expect us to get this far. Y'all really didn't expect it. We got Sophie Cunningham exposing the whole league agenda. Exposing them. Caitlin Clark mocking them all on Twitter, all on Instagram, everywhere.
Meanwhile, The reigning powerhouse looks mortal. That's compelling television. That's the package you'd expect the league to spotlight non-stop. Instead, we're arguing about whether a player can write "refs couldn't stop us" on Instagram. Ask yourself, what does that tell the casual fan who finally tuned in this year? That dialogue is dangerous. That joy is regulated. That the league polices tone more than it fixes process. Here's the deeper cut. If your officiating is truly consistent, a stray IG comment doesn't threaten you. When the product is tight, criticism bounces off. When the product is shaky, criticism sticks. The fine doesn't protect the brand. It confesses the insecurity. Let's put numbers in human scale. $200 to Clark is a rounding error. Endorsements dwarf salary in this sport. So the punishment can't be about pain, it's about posture. It says we control the narrative. But the modern sports economy doesn't work like that. Fans don't want a sanitized feed. They want authenticity with guardrails. They want emotion, not erasure.
What world do we live in? Like, I'm pretty sure she just said the refs can't stop them celebrating. This isn't even her going at refs. It's literally like if you say the word refs and you're an Indiana Fever player, you're going to get fined. If you say the word refs as a Fever player, the word referees has to be spoken, cannot be said by an Indiana Fever player, otherwise it's a fine. And the worst part is if they got fined for celebrating. So I don't think, only she got fined, not everybody. There's other people on the floor, everything. She's not, like, they're celebrating, the timeout's been called, or the foul's been called, it is what it is.
Back to the floor. Indiana's run without their headliner is the kind of adversity arc sports marketers dream about. 6 key players sidelined across the year, rotations stitched together, and still they punch above their weight. In Game 1 versus Vegas, the Fever didn't just survive, they dictated. Early pace, purposeful cutting, Mitchell manipulating space, and that bench, Clark's bench mob, swinging momentum with energy and shot making. If you're writing the league promo, this is your montage. Here's where the fine collides with the narrative. Clark's comment. Refs couldn't stop us isn't a tantrum. It's a thesis about resilience that Indiana can win through noise, through whistles, through pressure. The very next chapter supports the thesis. That's poetry. Why muzzle the line that frames your story? And no, this doesn't have to be a binary, celebrating one star while muzzling another. You can hold a trophy ceremony in one room and tolerate harmless chirp in another. The league wins when both coexist, dominance and defiance, excellence and edge.
When you're on the WNBA's time or the NFL's time or the NBA's time, when you're on their time, criticizing the officials, calling out the officiating, I've seen players get fined for that. But when you're on your own time, well, now, other than Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark seems to be the 2 players that come to my mind of players getting fined, criticizing the officials, doing it on their own time, quote unquote, off the clock.
Let's address the counter-argument. If you allow players to talk about refs, it snowballs into conspiracy. 2 answers. First, intent and intensity matter. There's a canyon between a targeted attack on an individual official and a generic "refs couldn't stop us." Second, controlled transparency is the antidote to conspiracy, not silence. Sunlight shrinks speculation.
Rather than fining players for being excited on the bench and for letting it be known how trash your referees are, why don't you start fining referees for not calling fouls? Why don't you start putting that type of energy into making sure the game is played better? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Because that would be nice. That would be nice if you could do that.
Picture the moment the fine arrives. The Fever locker room is loose. Mitchell is still buzzing. Role players are finally getting headlines. Clark pulls out her phone, sees the notice, and just grins. Bench mob's gonna be louder tomorrow. That's leadership you can feel. She can't play, but she can set attitude. Teams take on the personality of their best competitor, even when she's in street clothes. And that's the other lesson here. You can discipline words, but you can't penalize momentum. The Fever are playing with house joy now. Loose teams are scary teams. They don't grip the ball, they let it fly. A $200 invoice won't change that. Let's widen the lens to the audience. This year brought a wave of new viewers who arrived because one player's range, flair, and fire cut through the noise. They stayed because the games got messy, and human skirmishes, buzzer beaters, messy storylines, real emotion, that's sports. If you reduce it to sterilized press releases, you lose the thing that made people care.
If this is the WNBA foreshadowing, we're seeing how you're acting on the bench. We're seeing how you're talking to the officials on the bench. We will tee you up. Now, whether I think that she deserves a tee for it or not, we're not even going to get into that. What if this is just saying, hey, we're going to tee you up if you continue to get at the officials, if you continue to talk up the officials, if you continue to show up the officials on the sideline, we're going to tee you up. We're not going to tee Sophie up.
So, where does it go from here? Two paths. Path A. Double down on control. Keep the fines, keep the chill, and watch the conversation move somewhere you don't own. Podcasts, TikToks, independent channels, where the narrative hardens without your input. Path B. Choose credibility. Embrace the heat, codify the lines, talk to fans like adults, and fix the parts everyone's complaining about anyway. Guess which path grows the pie? Tactically, Indiana's blueprint is portable. Hunt mismatches for Mitchell early, force help, then let cutters and shooters feast. Defensively, shrink the floor, show bodies at the nail, live with contested pull-ups instead of easy paint touches. This isn't fluke energy, it's repeatable basketball. And that's why the story has legs. Whether or not they finish the upset, they've already done the hardest thing. They've made you believe a team can be more than its injury report.
Sophie has got jokes. She retweeted this. That's really going to break the bank for her. Starting a GoFundMe now. Sophie, you got jokes. Hun, you got jokes. Yeah, so Sophie Cunningham Central, I'll donate.
And in that context, Clark's comment lands like an ethos, not an insult. Refs couldn't stop us isn't about denigrating officials. It's about elevating resilience. It's bench as engine, role player as hero, belief as advantage. It's also a mirror to the league. If your best storylines are popping, don't swat them down. Frame them. One more thing about consequences. Fines are supposed to change behavior. Did this fine do that? No. It amplified the message, energized the subject, and distracted from the real fix. That's the definition of ineffective policy.
Like, it is madness. It is madness. And I mean this. Like, the amount of people are like, oh, I hate this team. It's like, why? They're excessively celebrating. They're excessively celebrating. They're not there talking down on other teams. They're not doing the Alyssa Thomas. They're not doing a Phoenix Mercury and shit talking other teams' fans. They're not doing Phoenix Mercury and shit talking the other team's players, their coaches, their all of this stuff. And then when they lose, they're silent and they dodge everything. Hell no, they're just celebrating. They're just celebrating. They actually find somebody for saying refs can't stop. The refs won't stop us.
So tell me this in the comments. Keep it tight. If you ran the league tomorrow, what's the one officiating or comms change you'd implement immediately? One rule. One transparency lever. Drop it below. Best ideas get pinned. Here's what I know. You can't manufacture passion. The Fever have it. The fans clearly have it. And even from the sideline, Clark has it by the truckload. You want to grow a league? Don't dim that light. Aim it. Give us clarity on whistles. Give players room for harmless swagger. And when an underdog kicks in the door, don't reach for the citation book. Hit record. Because if Indiana keeps playing like this, no, the refs won't stop them, and neither will a $200 fine. If you're riding with Indiana's bench mob, tap like. If you want more transparency and fewer texts, hit subscribe. We'll be back after Game 2 with receipts, breakdowns, and if the league insists, spare change.